All right, good evening, everybody. We invite you to take a seat. Thank you for being here. We love having a full room and appreciate the opportunity to engage with everybody. Okay, welcome to City Council. Today is February 1st, 2024. I'll explain the way our meeting works for those who have not attended a meeting before. We follow our agenda. So first of all, we'll have an opening presented by Councilmember Perry Oaks. Following his opening, he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, and so we'll stand for that. Thank you.
You know, it's not often, well, not as often as we'd probably like that we get a full house here, so we appreciate people being here to be able to speak and also to recognize some of our fire department members. When I think about it and have time to prepare, but I don't have anything to prepare today, so why don't we start with a prayer, and then if you'll stand with me and we'll lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. So, our Father in heaven, we're indeed grateful for this day, and we're grateful for this nation in which we live and where we have the freedoms of which we're able to assemble together and which we're able to govern ourselves. We're thankful for the members of the city who would come and who live here. We're grateful for those who serve this wonderful city, and ask you to please bless them with wisdom and guidance. We pray that we might have a good meeting today to be able to accomplish what we have set out to talk about. And we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Huh? Oh yeah, I'm good. I was trying to post this real quick. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to really quickly just explain how our council meetings run. We have what's called Call to the Public. It's an opportunity for the public to stand up. You'll get 3 minutes, you'll have a timer, and then at the end of 3 minutes, your microphone will die. So please use your time wisely. During the time that you speak to us, we don't respond to you. We just allow you to have that time to share whatever thoughts you have with the council and whoever's listening on YouTube. So we appreciate you being willing to participate in that process. Before we move to call to the public, I wanted to just clarify something. It's come to our attention that there might be some misinformation out there about a potential shelter in Kaysville. We've had several discussions about this. October 19th, we had an agenda item that was a work item talking about billboards. So the state of Utah last year passed a bill. It's called House Bill 499, and it requires counties that are considered what's the actual term? Counties of the second class of a certain size are required to provide a code blue in a winter shelter within their county somewhere. The way the law is written is that the location would be for 2 years. It is a temporary location, and it would rotate through the cities. Now, there are many reasons why that's not a really good idea, good plan. So Davis County came to us as mayors, and they said, hey, we're going to create a homeless task force for Davis County. Who wants to volunteer? It's going to take a lot of time. We need you to put in a lot of research. I signed up to do that because Kaysville matters, right? I live in Kaysville. I've been here for 30 years. Our family loves the city. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't, nor would any of our council members be sitting here if we didn't all love our city. So I signed up to be a member of the task force. Right now there are, actually we had a mayor from another city join, so we have 7 mayors of the 15 cities in Davis County who are concerned and interested in the future of Davis County in terms of homeless needs and providing for the unsheltered population. So we've, over the last couple of months since, actually I think the task force originally started sometime last year, we've toured various locations thinking that perhaps instead of doing a temporary code blue shelter that rotates through the county because it would be very confusing. You know, people get used to going to a location and then the location changes and then how are they going to get there? There's just so many logistical nightmares with rotating a shelter. We've seen it not work in Salt Lake. And so we don't think that it would work anywhere else as well. So Davis County, our task force said, hey, maybe what we should do is look at a permanent location for a shelter that has wraparound services, that has the ability to provide for workforce services, soup kitchen, mass transit, so that people can get to and from where they're going. We need to find a location also where the population currently exists. There are locations within Davis County where they have higher concentrations of unsheltered people. And instead of busing people to a city, we should allow we should be cognizant and aware of how are we best responding to the needs of this population, and that is by serving them where they're at. And so we've had these discussions. So January 4th in our council meeting, we had an agenda item as a work item to talk about what are we going to do here in Kaysville. So the suggestion was made of a couple of different locations because they're owned by Davis County and they're properties that they already own. One of the suggestions was, hey, how about the Davis County Fairgrounds, which is now called the Event Center, the blue buildings over there in Davis County by Station Park. That was deemed as the county said, no, that's not a good idea for various reasons. Number one, there's a lot of construction going on. So we said, okay. Then they said, well, how about the equestrian center by the ponds? And we said, are you kidding me? It's got a dirt floor. I mean, how could that help anybody? It's not near anything. Plus it's within residential housing. So they said, okay, that's not a good idea. Then they said, well, as a county, we own 3 senior centers in Davis County, one in Layton, one in Bountiful, and one in Kaysville. The Kaysville Senior Center is just over here by the city hall. And we said that's a horrible idea as well because the seniors love to come and use that facility during the day. And so the county said, well, maybe it would be a good idea to look at using the facility at night. Well, there are many reasons why that's not a good idea. It's near a school, it's in a populated area, and Kaysville doesn't have any front runner lines here. We've got one line that goes through Kaysville. So they said, okay, that's not a good idea. So then the county looked at its records and said, hey, we own an admission center in West Kaysville. And at the end of this year or sometime during this year, it will be an empty building. And we've said, boy, that's not a good idea either. And I'll tell you why. We don't have transportation. We're not close to facilities or services. The building would need to be remodeled. So there are many reasons why we feel like Kaysville is not the right location to support this population. And so the county said, as a task force, we said we need to rely on data. And I'm sorry I'm taking so long, but I want everyone to understand this whole story. So the data. So last week, there was a point-in-time count. It's called a pit count. It's done across the country. It's required by the federal government and trickles down to the state, where we go between 3:30 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. We have volunteers that go out, and they look for people who are unsheltered. So I volunteered to participate in the pit count for Kaysville and Fruit Heights because I wanted to see firsthand what are our issues here, and do we have any within our city boundary? So Thursday night, the 2 ladies went. They went again on Friday, and I went with them Friday morning, and then they went again on Saturday. So we went out and we looked, and we tried to find somebody that was maybe unsheltered or in need of services, and we didn't find anyone within our city. Now, that doesn't mean that there's not people in Davis County. There definitely are people. There's quite a few people, apparently, that are unsheltered and in need of services. So I just wanted to kind of clarify what's happened so far. No decisions have been made. The task force right now, like I said, has been actively looking at different locations and having discussions. I had an opportunity on Monday to meet with the bill sponsor, Wayne Niederhauser, and the county and the state. And we said, hey, please amend your bill because the bill doesn't work for a couple of reasons. If Davis County provides a long-term permanent plan without a location identified, would you be willing to say, okay, we don't need a temporary shelter because why put money into a temporary place when we have a long-term plan? So that's our ask. So Davis County Task Force, that I'm on for the homeless task force, we said, legislature, will you please fund, we're asking for $30 million and then $2 million for ongoing funding because a facility like this will need to have 24/7 administrative services as well as law enforcement present. So that would be the ask. We don't know what will happen as far as the legislative funding goes, the appropriation request. It will have to go through the process. We don't know where that's going to land. Meanwhile, we wanted, as a council, to make sure that our community knows the discussions that are happening. And so that's why it's been on our agenda twice. I'm glad you're all here because we want you all to know and be aware that it is a potential. Now, in talking to the county recently, we don't believe that we're going to have to provide a temporary shelter here in Kaysville. There are many reasons why we're not able to do it, why it's not a good fit for here. I do want you to know that potentially I'm a member of the task force, one person. I can vote against this, but it doesn't mean everybody else won't vote for it at some point. If that did happen, then the county it's public land, and there's really not a lot that the city could do because the land use is above our jurisdiction. You know, they could say this is a county-owned building. We're going to put a temporary shelter here. Now, that being said, I promise you that we're doing everything we can to find another solution, to find another location that would be better at serving the population and supporting this. But we do want everyone to know about it, and that's why we're having these conversations and discussions. So I didn't mean to take too long explaining that, but I want you to know where we're at. I do want you to know that we are all invested here, and we want to make sure that we stand up and do what's right for the county, but especially for our city. So that being said, I'll now open to the public. We have a couple people signed up to speak to this. Will you come up in the order that I mentioned your names, and then you'll have your time. Taryn Smoot, Jason Largy, did I say that right? Sorry. Okay, when you come up to the mic, just state your name, okay? Russell Condi and Jennifer Borup. So Taryn Smoot, come on down.
My name is Taryn Smoot, and I have been a resident of Kaysville City since 2020. I have also been a registered nurse in the state of Utah for the last 25 years, and I've been specifically working with the underserved, the vulnerable, and the disabled populations in Davis, Weber, and Salt Lake counties. So I appreciate what Mayor Tran had mentioned about the considerations that you've made so far regarding the homeless population. I personally have worked with this population for the last 25 years, so I'm very familiar with all of the struggles they have and their unique capabilities. To give you a sense of what they struggle with, they often struggle to maintain sobriety. Many of these individuals, like the Salt Lake Tribune noted in 2023, 49% of homeless people that were interviewed in September of 2023, 49% of those people admitted to having substance abuse issues. So these people, they struggle, like I said, to maintain sobriety. They fail to participate in rehab programs and exit those rehab programs successfully. They are plagued by their mental illness, which is often severe and often completely untreated. They are not consistent in maintaining a medical treatment program, and it contributes to the exacerbation of their illnesses. In short, they cannot complete the necessary tasks required to thrive well in daily life. As noted, as you guys have been talking about the homeless temporary shelter, it's important to note that some of these shelters, the things that they experience are often personal property being stolen, illicit drug use, sexual assault, and the spread of illness and infections, including MRSA infections and sexually transmitted infections. So I feel like the real question to Kaysville is, if we are tasked by the state of Utah to contribute to the homeless effort relief, how can we do it better than what's already been done? Because obviously we ask for money, we ask for more facilities, we ask for more support, but who is on this task force that you mentioned? Kaysville stands in a very unique position to be able to access resources including healthcare organizations, specifically Intermountain Health, religious organizations, humanitarian organizations, and also educational institutions. And people on these organizations and institutions have a wealth of knowledge and experience to lend to this task force. I appreciate that there is an effort to make a task force, but my question is, who are these people on the task force, and are they contributing enough valuable information to make a lasting impact? People like myself, people who participate in healthcare organization administration teams, and also in educational institutions. They are perfect people to access, to recruit, and to help. If we have to lend a hand to relieving the homeless effort, then let's access all of our incredible resources here in Kaysville. So that's what I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's pleasant. The horn would be good.
My name is Jason Lardy.
Lordy, thank you.
Thank you. And I live in Kaysville. I've lived here since 2010, and I live over in the neighborhood that's just south of the overpass and west of the tracks. We moved here from Salt Lake County. Part of the reason we chose to move here, I work at Hill Air Force Base, but we moved here because where we lived in Salt Lake, if you left anything outside for a few minutes, it was gone. We had people in our yards, even though all the yards were fenced. For the entire time we've lived here, we've been amazed that there's just not stuff missing all the time, and said nobody knows about this place or they'd all be gone. We hope they never find it, because there were cars that would drive through the neighborhood and just collect everything. So the community, the environment that's there, the unsheltered are an intelligent group. They do know what they're doing. They do take care of themselves, and I appreciate what was commented about. Where are they going already? We love Kaysville. It's a great place to have a family and raise a family. That's why we moved here. It's why we picked to move here, among other places. The idea that you couldn't find any here shows it's not a great place to be homeless. And I think that's important to note. And I don't know that we want to make Kaysville a great place to be unsheltered. That's a huge point that I want to make. There's Barnes Park is right there. The Maverick is right there. In a previous council meeting that I watched, we thought it was 0.7 miles away from the nearest home. It's like 0.2. It's right across the tracks. They're right there on that corner. The businesses that are around, all those other things are just right close. Some of my neighbors, I have a neighbor who works in the hotel industry, and he's spoken to me extensively about having homeless come and stay, and he's all about that. But he said, we never have hotel rooms that are good when they leave. They're destroyed, they're damaged. So there's vandalism, and I don't necessarily understand that, but know that it happens. And I have neighbors who came with and gave me their ideas to talk when we talked. And once it starts, it doesn't stop. If it's a temporary structure, it's not going to stay temporary. And the one thing I want to say is, if we do end up getting forced to make this happen here, and that does happen, I want to make sure that there is a plan in place put to say, if you have to bring people here from overflows, they must be taken back to where they were brought from at the time, and that has to be made arranged, because there is not public transit available. And I know you talked about that the busing at that station right there is not consistent, reliable, or convenient times for when the shelter would be open. So I don't believe that anyone's just going to come and be here, but the underpass right there on 200 North, if it happens, will become where there are people. It will become a place. And then everything around it will spread. So I know there was a talk. If there's not enough time, I'll volunteer to help with the task force. There's lots of other ideas that I don't have time to talk about that I've had in just a couple of days of thinking about it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
Can I add something real quick? I just want to say really quickly, to those of you who you want to volunteer, you want more information on the task force, please email us, and we'll be happily supply that to you. So,
my name is Russell Condi. I live at 522 Joshua Drive. My wife and I have lived here, raised our family since 2001. I am currently employed with West Valley City. I've been there for 26 years. I serve on the homeless task force for West Valley. So I know firsthand some issues that I foresee that we are going to deal with. I look at it from a safety standpoint. We're in close proximity to I-15. And a challenge that we deal with in West Valley is that we have panhandling occurring on the on and off ramps. And it disrupts traffic flow, and the law enforcement are constantly there at various places in West Valley because it's impeding the traffic flow. And we're a stone's throw to 200 North on and off ramps, and I foresee that that's going to pose a tremendous safety issue for not only the pedestrians, but for the motorists that are going on and off of I-15. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Jennifer Borup. I live at 749 Chelsea Drive. We've been in the area about 20 years. I feel extremely unprepared to speak to the council tonight, but I wanted to let you know that we are against this process and the way it is happening. I did want you to know that I did not receive an email that told me that the council was for this, just that we were speaking about it, and our neighborhood knew nothing about it until about 6:20 tonight is when I got word. So I just wanted to be on the record saying we have huge concerns. We've already dealt with a lot of things going down Deseret Drive, and we have huge concerns over this, and I just wanted to share that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for contributing, everyone. Now we get to talk about our incredible fire department. We'd like to introduce Chief Paul Erickson.
Mayor, council, city leaders, Kaysville residents, thank you for your time this evening. I have a couple presentations to give today, and I'm quite proud of these gentlemen. Caleb, can you come up here, please? Caleb Lewis is a full-time firefighter with UFA. He's been with us for a few years part-time, picks up a lot of shifts and does a lot of good things for us. He's awarded the Supervising Fire Officer designation. It's achieved by documenting a comprehensive body of career development classes, higher education, certifications, competencies, and experiences based on the criteria developed by this board. He demonstrates commitment to his professionalism. He follows an ongoing path of continuing education and professionalism. This is a hard designation to get. You have to earn it. It takes a little bit, and so I think he's done a great job. He's an asset to us, and we're certainly proud of him. So, thank you.
Yeah, should we go down? After they take the picture. Caleb, we want to get a picture with you. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. All of us. Come on. You're fine. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mike, right behind you.
All right, let's hurry up.
All right. Who's going to pose this?
Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I appreciate that. Thank
so
you.
much.
Yeah. Just stay up here. Hey, brother. Hey.
You know, we're going to go up here and just go back down, right? Right back. Right back.
Yeah, we might as well.
All right, again, this is awesome to do every year. Our Firefighter of the Year program is a peer-nominated program. So anybody on our department can submit whoever they want. We had 3 submittals this year. Tyler Reese, Colton Alvey were also submitted. by their peers. Cameron was actually submitted twice by people. He does a great job for us. I can't speak enough. He's been with the city for over 10 years. I know he doesn't look it. It looks like he's only been with the city about 3 months. But he's a key asset. He collects all our data for us for our justifications that I give to you for various things. Our career development plan that we just put together that helps guide a firefighter to their future. Our annual report, which is due to you in another month or so. He gets all that data together. He taught an ADO class. It's a driver class for engineers. And we self-taught it, and usually it's not very successful when you do it within your department. We were successful in certifying 3 of the people that were in the class, so it worked out very well for us. If you don't know, we are the most liked fire department in the state, and we're one of the smaller ones, and that's because of Cameron and his wit, that's for sure. He works at Davis County Dispatch part-time, which is a definite asset to us. He helps us get our stackings and where our response, and it just really helps having him in there, and it kind of gets through the red tape and we can go directly to him. He's definitely on a path. He strives all the time. He's always taking classes, just got back from winter fire school, does a great job, and he actually just got promoted to captain on the 29th of January. So great kid, love him. He works hard, just like all of them do. Not to take away from Tyler or Colton, but great job for our Firefighter of the Year 2023. So we tried something new this year. And I'm not really liking it, but
Okay.
You don't like the weather.
yeah.
Wait.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah.
Okay, we want to take a picture too. Go ahead, though. Go ahead.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to come down and make you do another one. I've known Cameron since, how old? Like you're 12?
Yeah, 12.
Yeah, when you moved into our neighborhood, all of you are outstanding. I especially adore you just because I've known you so long. And what Chief meant is he's the social media genius. So when you see those funny Facebook posts and tweets, that's all Cam.
Yeah, you've known him longer than that. Hey, Sandy, that was a good one. I was so
Thank you, Chief. You guys, I'm glad that so many
Mayor
people are here.
Tran,
Yes.
did you know that now the kids in the group would know that we would say that is so fire?
So,
Nobody knows. That's like the new lingo.
is that the new thing,
Yeah,
John?
that's so
I'm
awesome.
glad
That
you
was
keep
so
us,
fire.
You keep
You've
us
heard
going.
it, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. I use that term every day. What are you talking about? Anyway, I'm so glad you were all here to be able to see our outstanding fire department. We are really lucky here in Kaysville. We've got great people. And police department as well. Thank you for being there. All right. Okay. Conflicts of interest. Council, do we have anything to share or declare? No? Okay. Then we will move on to our consent agenda. Any discussion on this, or does someone want to make a motion to move it? Councilmember Blackham.
I was hoping that the person who's taken that parade chair is here. I want to see who did that.
Who would do that?
I can speak to that. So that's my wife. That's a good question. So the previous parade chair, I think everyone knows, Chad called it a tremendous job for a number of years, and unfortunately had to step down. And so he kind of left us in a position to find a new person pretty quickly. They usually typically start the process of doing pre-planning and meetings this month in February. So there was the Parks and Rec Department put out through social media some requests for people to submit any interest. Unfortunately, they didn't get anybody, and just due to the timing of needing to find somebody, I asked my wife if she would please maybe step up and volunteer for this, at least for a time, and she agreed to it.
How long have you been married?
Well, so far.
Wow.
No, she didn't hesitate, and really speaks well of her. She and I think she'll do a tremendous job. Not biased, of course, but she has done a lot of great big projects in the past. Everything from, Stake Young Women's Camp director for a number of years to regional Relief Society big projects. I mean, she's kind of the go-to person that people turn to. She's done track and cross-country booster club president, just everything you can think of. She does really with a lot of quality, detail-oriented. So I think she'll do fantastic. But I want to emphasize, too, if there's anybody out there that has any interest, please step up. I think she'd be happy to step down and let somebody else take that on. But I think she'll do a tremendous job for as long as you'll have her. So, thank you. And she couldn't be here tonight. She's recovering from an ailment, but she did send me a text that I'll forward on to you.
Thank you so much, Jason. Audience, we'd invite you to have conversations outside in the lobby so that these meetings are recorded, and so it makes it hard to hear. So thank you. All right, thank you. We're excited to have Heidi. Does someone want to make a motion to move the consent agenda?
Yeah,
consent items.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent items A, B, and C.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second by Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Adams.
Oh, I'm first.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion passes. Thank you. So now we are on action item 6A, an ordinance amending Title 6 and 8 of the Kaysville City Code. Turn the time over to Josh Belknap. Thanks, Josh.
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Last meeting, this is my third meeting in a row, so this is exciting. We have two ordinance modifications, Title VI regarding gates and barriers, things that would impede the response times of police, fire, and even utility crews in emergencies. And then Title VIII, just some updates to our major street plan with some of the new streets that we've added over the last 2 or 3 decades, and changes to some of the designations on state roads. So, any questions from council?
Don't see any questions. All right, thank you. Thank you, Josh. All right, would someone like to make a motion?
I will. I'll make a motion that we approve action item A, an ordinance amending Title 6 and 8 of the Kaysville City Code.
Thank you, Councilmember Blackham.
I'll second.
Oh, thank you, Councilmember Hunt. Okay.
That was a good second.
Any conversation, any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. Councilmember Hunt.
Aye.
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 Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, 6B, amendments to personnel appeal procedures. I'll turn the time over to Nick, our staff attorney, for this.
Thanks, Mayor, members of City Council. It's good to be with you tonight. This would change the appeal process for people, for employees that had a grievance or were disciplined at a certain level, to change it from the City Council as the appeal board to a hearing officer. We discussed this at our last meeting. There were a number of good questions that were asked last time, but one of the questions was, what were the other cities in the county doing? And I did a little research on that, including Davis County. There are 5 other municipalities that have a hearing officer, like is proposed in the ordinance. Bountiful City, Farmington, Clearfield, Davis County. West Bountiful has kind of an interesting approach where the mayor can either hear the appeal or appoint a hearing officer, or the mayor and a hearing officer could hear the appeal. I kind of lump that into the hearing officer category. You can tell me not to do that next time, but that's kind of how I categorize it. There's 4 cities that have a mixed panel where they have 2 members of the city council and 3 employees from different departments. That's Woods Cross, Centerville, Layton, and Syracuse. 3 cities that I didn't see that this was addressed in code: North Salt Lake, West Point, and Clinton. And then 3 cities that have the city council as the appeal board: Fruit Heights, Sunset, and Councilmember Hunt told me that South Weber also does that. I know there was some discussion about how the council wanted to proceed, but those are kind of the 3 methods that cities have used. It's my opinion, although we would certainly defer to whatever policy decision the council made, that the hearing officer has a lot of the best benefits, and it looks like most organizations are trending that way. I would imagine if we had looked at this a decade ago, we would have seen a lot more city councils hearing these items. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. And for those listening, before we get to an action item, we usually have a work item. So we have discussed this in previous council meetings. Just so everyone knows, there's a thoughtful, slow process to all of this. So Councilmember Hunt.
Is it okay if I do comments, or do we do questions?
You can do whatever you want.
Okay, cool. So I spent a fair amount of time thinking about this, and I'm glad Nick was able to reach out to more of the cities. I was only able to get a hold of about 3. And I guess kind of where I'm at on this is that I think having the council on there does bring a lot of issues. Like we talked about a few specific situations where the council could really look like they have a conflict of interest, you know, especially if we've already been part of the process of you know, whatever is happening in this disciplinary issue. And so I think, I don't know, I kind of came up with an idea, and I'd love to talk about it more. I know we're on an action item as opposed to a work item, but I was thinking about it today, and I just thought, what if we did a hybrid type thing where we did kind of something similar to what Layton does, where they've got a board made up of council and staff, but also allowed the person applying to choose between either doing that or having like the administrative law judge like we're looking into, because I think that puts it in their hands. They're able to, because then we're not saying, oh, we want to go to an outside source, but if they want to, then they can, or if they want to stay inside because they think they have a better case that way, I think it's more fair to anyone who falls into this. And even though it doesn't happen very often, I think it could be, I don't know, beneficial. Just an idea, something I came up with. I think having just the council, I don't think we're corrupt in that we make terrible decisions, but it can look bad. Like if it's an election year and they're like, well, this person's really prominent in the city, and so of course you save their job when maybe they're a terrible employee or whatever, you know, anything can happen. And I think allowing that kind of distance between us and that can instill, I think, more faith in kind of us as an institution and the things we do.
Thank you, Councilmember Hunt. Councilmember, go ahead. Jackson. Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Councilmember Hunt. I appreciate your comments. So this issue, I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm really concerned about removing any sort of authority from the council from this type of situation. I think these are very rare situations, and ultimately we are accountable to the people, and that includes our employees as well. And what makes Kaysville so great is we're a family. The community, the staff get along with each other, and I want to keep it that way. And I feel like we are unbiased as a council. I mean, it takes a majority to make a decision, and I think it's in every. I think we have the capability to make the right decision. And previously, when we dealt with this situation, the outside hearing officer clearly got it wrong, in my opinion, and the evidence did not stack up. And because of that conversation and that meeting, I feel like we're better off as a city. We strengthen our regulations and whatnot. And there's another action item tonight, which I think is fantastic, that I'm looking forward to talking. But ultimately, I think that the power resides with us, and I'm okay with doing a hybrid approach. I'm okay with having the mayor involved, but I am not okay with removing the council as a whole. I think that's a big mistake, And I think that it's very important to have checks and balances, and that not only the community has a voice, but our own employees. So.
Okay, thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Councilmember Blackham.
I'm kind of the same feeling that Councilmember Jackson is. I mean, we've had it happen once since I've been here, and I don't remember any time before that when it had actually happened. And I think how we handled it and how we did the process, the outcome was such that I think we did it right. And I think the employees showed us that they felt like we got it right too. I mean, we keep pushing this thing that Kaysville's a family, Well, families fight, you know. They fight. They just have to get through it. And there are some disciplinary things that may have to happen, but I don't think an administrative law judge would have. Sure, he'd have an unbiased opinion, but it'd just be black and white. There'd be nothing there. There'd be no feeling that I think we add to it. And I think we don't look at a lot of times maybe the one incident that brought it there, but we look at a whole as how long has this person been here? What have they done? Does this deserve them to go? And I think that's where we come in and say, we take a bigger, broader look at it. I mean, I remember one time there was a council member up here that said we should fire 5% of the employees every year. Just that's what you do in corporations. And I'm like, how in the world did you come up with that? But yeah, so you know, it's only happened once. I think we did fine. I think we got it right, and like I said, I mean, we want to stay a family type organization, and we should be able to handle our own stuff. I don't think we need to go outside to pay somebody to look at things that I think we can, because I've always said, if somebody's done a criminal act, they're gone. That's it. These are more kind of discretionary items and opinions, and I think we can do that. I think we're good at that, and I think we can handle that. That's how I feel.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Oaks.
So since we're family and I'm sitting between the two of you and I disagree,
that's okay.
I'm not going to get punched, right? At least maybe under the table. And I guess my thoughts on the matter, and they've sort of remained the same, is that when it comes to an appeal, it's an employee. I trust our city manager and the department heads as they go through a disciplinary process, and if it's done the right way. And I think we're having some issues before then that there might not have been the proper oversight and the timing. Regardless, I think the importance of having, whether it's a summary court officer, someone with and I say with HR experience, who's able to see, and you're right, it is more black and white. But on an appeal case, I think it is more black and white, because it should be laid out. Here's what the actions were. Here's what the actions were required by an employee to take. Here's where they failed. Here's the process improvement plan that was put in place. Here's how they measured up to that or didn't. Here's what we're recommending. And someone who may be hearing these cases across different cities or different organizations, because my guess is an individual like this might be involved with small businesses as well, has much more experience than we have. And whether it's this council or the next council or the councils down the road, a process in place where you have professional people that are involved, I think gives you in the end a more professional decision. And I guess I still feel that way.
Thank you very much. Councilmember Adams.
Yeah, I agree with Councilmember Oaks, and my opinion stays the same. I feel like, the compassion that we have for employees isn't in question here. It's whether or not we are qualified to determine whether or not some action was just or unjust, because we're legislators, and for me, the emotions come into play, and that's when it becomes dangerous, is when you're emotional about things and you're not looking at it from a black and white standpoint. I think we hire the city manager, but then from that moment we trust that he's, running the city
appropriately, and it just puts us in my opinion, it puts us in a really bad position where we're having to make these decisions again. I don't think it's going to happen that often, but when it does, you know, my brother's an attorney, and he's more likely to answer questions about dealing with these type of affairs that I would never know. And so my opinion still stays the same. I think that this is something that should be handled outside. I think it'd be nice if we could at least, you know, I mean, if somebody wants to, if a council member wants to maybe send their opinion to the appellate judge or hearing officer, I don't know if that's inappropriate or if that would be something that would be appropriate so that they, you know, they could have that on file. I don't know.
No, I think that's something that certainly, you know, Jason in his weekly emails could communicate. We're going to have a hearing, and you know, if anybody wants to submit comments from the council, feel free to, and the ALJ could consider that.
And that's kind of where I feel like we would be, you know, we could be in, you could say your opinion and make your feelings known, but also rely on them to make the appropriate decision.
Mayor, may I have one more?
Councilmember Oaks.
A question for Nick. So Nick, another concern, and I think we brought it before, less liability on if there was a lawsuit after the fact, if it was not the council?
Yeah, the council would be subject to being deposed and discussing why they made certain decisions. They could have to testify at a employment law trial. That could happen while you're in office. That could happen several years after you've decided not to serve on the city council, and you'd be responsible to answer those subpoenas. Further, I think that just from a liability standpoint, not necessarily a personal inconvenience standpoint and the joy of a deposition, I think that an ALJ, because they would look to the letter of the law, they would apply the law, and they would produce findings of fact and conclusions of law. I think the city, regardless of their decision whether they supported an employee or supported, you know, the administration, however it turned out, there would be something that either side could point to and say, this objective person has looked at this, they've produced these findings of fact and conclusions of law, and it would really limit the scope of the lawsuit to errors in that document and in the ALJ's process, rather than kind of a more wide open lawsuit that could potentially occur.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Great questions. Councilmember Jackson.
Yeah, and Councilmember Adams, just to your point, I think it would be absolutely inappropriate for the council to go line item by line item to determine whether it's severe enough to save a job. I'm more concerned about the protocol that the city takes as far as advance notice, working with employees, giving the employees the tools they need to succeed, and following all the proper steps before it gets to a situation like that. And then I do have a question, Nick. It's my understanding that a hearing officer, the city can still retain a hearing officer in addition to having the council involved or part of the council or the mayor, and use information from a hearing officer and the council. Is that correct?
That would require a code, an amendment to the code. But yeah, we could do that. I mean, West Bountiful has a process where the mayor and the administrative officer potentially hear the appeal. And you could have a process where at some point a hearing officer heard the appeal as either pre-council or post-council or whatever. We would have to add an amendment to the code. As it sits now, the city council is the final appeal body.
Okay. I do like what Councilmember Hunt mentioned, giving employees an opportunity to bring it before the council or part of the council or just the hearing officer. I'm inclined to move this back to a work item and do a little more, figure out what we want to do exactly before we bring it back to an action item, or I won't support anything that doesn't include at least a hybrid approach or having the mayor involved. So.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Jackson. Anyone else want to share opinions? Councilmember Adams?
Oh, no.
Oh, no? Okay.
Well, I didn't want woman? I can't remember. Do we say councilman? No? Councilmember Hunt, to think that I wasn't listening to her option. I think my concern with the hybrid mode would be that you would be putting people in position of basically choosing whether they get the, it's kind of like, that could just get hairy, I think, in my opinion. I think we kind of got to figure out what we're going to do and just move forward with it instead of adding. That could become something that they could come back at and say, well, you picked them because they were emotionally attached or they went to your son's football game or something like that. I don't know. I just didn't want you to think I didn't hear you.
Okay. What I said last time, I still feel that this is something that's an administrative role, and we are a legislative body. So I do like the idea of separating that relationship responsibility and separating the council from the process of a disciplinary appeal board. I think that legally it sets a better precedence. It gives us distance. It makes the lines of responsibility and influence very clear. I think it's cleaner in terms of just the process for the city. At the same time, I understand that Kaysville is a family, and we do love the relationships and the feelings of belonging that we have here in our city. If I were to vote, I would vote to support the change in the process, and for those reasons, I just think that it's good to have that separation. So, Council, are we ready to? Does someone want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
Councilmember Oaks.
Make a motion that we approve the amendments to the personal appeal procedures.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Jackson.
Nay.
Aye.
Nay.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you everybody for your consideration of this. This is a very big decision, and we appreciate it. Motion carries. Okay, all right, council member reports. Does anyone have any comments or, go ahead, Nick, did you have?
I'm sorry, we actually have a work item.
Oh, we do? Oh, sorry. We do. Work item, changes to employee disciplinary procedures. Nick, I'll turn the time over to you.
This is actually a change that the fire department brought to our attention as they went through the captain's process. As they were going through the process, one of the steps that they took was the employees were, the applicants for the captain process were asked to write up, they were given a hypothetical, they were asked to write up an employee. And some of the intrepid firefighters looked at the city policy and they said, well, I can author this write-up, but it looks like the department head is the only person authorized to give a written reprimand. I'll note that it goes verbal warning, which supervisors can give, written reprimand, then suspension, and then dismissal. So written reprimand is kind of the second step. What this change proposes is that supervisors, direct line supervisors, potentially sergeants and lieutenants in the police department, captains in the fire department, and other, Cody Thompson in our public works department potentially, they would talk to the department head, concur with them, but then they would be authorized to give a written warning to employees. And that's really the summary of the change.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyone have any thoughts?
Yeah.
Councilmember Jackson.
No, I just really like this, and I appreciate the fire department bringing it to our attention because I think the city will be better off and all the departments to have this change. So.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Councilmember Hunt.
I also just kind of want to second what Councilmember Jackson said, just in light of the changes we just approved. I appreciate having a more robust disciplinary procedure and a more, I guess, a better way to keep track of those sorts of things. So thanks for all the work that went into it, fire department and everyone else. Appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hunt. Councilmember Oaks.
So Nick, so I got a verbal. Now, if I'm doing a verbal reprimand, I'm still documented in someone's records, I would hope.
Yeah.
And okay, so a written reprimand is just like one step higher. All right. But so the supervisor can do that, but when you get to further disciplinary action, it's like the department head or the chief. Is that correct?
That's correct. So anything above written reprimand requires the department head, and termination requires, the decision to terminate would require a department head with the concurrence.
With the city manager.
Yep.
Okay. Just wanted clarification from I thought it was that way, but just.
So the way it would work is verbal warning, supervisor could give. Written reprimand, supervisor could get, under the proposed changes, supervisor could give with the concurrence of the department head. Suspension up to 48 hours, I believe, is department head only decision, and then termination, department head with the concurrence of the city manager.
And now that appeal would have to go to the administrative law judge, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, I'm good, thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Oaks. Anyone else?
I'm happy to make a motion.
Thank you.
Do you want me to?
Sure.
I'll make a motion that we move work item A, changes to employee disciplinary procedures, to an action item.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Councilmember Oaks.
Aye.
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 Thank you. Motion carries. And I appreciate the discussion about the prior item. And Councilmember Jackson, to your point, this is good. I'm glad that you've been bringing that up, just making sure that we have a really defined process. And thank you, everyone, for participation on that. Okay. Now, Councilmember reports. During this time, audience, we kind of update you on what we're doing, what our department that we have liaison responsibilities are doing, and just generally what we're thinking. Okay. Anyone? Councilmember Luckham.
Councilmember Jackson and I both went to the Utah, and the mayor went to the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns down at the Capitol on Monday. There are a lot of bills in there. We really appreciate the work that Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns does, but we actually go down there and help ratify what they do against the bills that are going. A lot of these bills are written against the cities. I don't know how better to say that. And it gives the cities an opportunity with the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns to get with these legislators and tell them why their bills don't make a lot of sense, and at least gets us a voice in there. And we go down and we do this all during the session, and I really don't know what cities would do if they didn't have an organization like the Utah Leagues of Cities and Towns, because it would be so hard to get to those legislators, really, and try to advocate for these bills that just don't make a lot of sense for cities. And I just appreciate all the work that they do, and it's good to go down, and hopefully you understand that we really care about the city and what goes on here, and so that's why we're down there trying to advocate for you as citizens when things just don't seem to make sense for the cities, and a lot of times things just don't make sense for the cities.
Thank you. And thank you for showing up to those meetings, too.
I was actually going to mention that as well. So thank you, Councilmember Blackham. We spent a lot of time down at the Capitol this time of year. And I also want to applaud the mayor with this homelessness situation. The mayor has been strongly advocating for the best needs of Kaysville, pushing back against the state, the county, trying to find, not only pushing back, but trying to find a very good solution. So thanks for all of your work. And I just want to throw this out there to the community. With us down at the Capitol lobbying for the best interests of Kaysville, if you see bills that are coming down the pipeline with the state legislature, please reach out to us and let us know how you feel so that we can be your voice down there. So.
Rob, thank you. We love you, Rob. Thanks. All right, anyone else? Nope. Business as usual. Okay.
Oh, just with all of my liaison positions, we're kind of just plugging along. Nothing new and exciting to talk about, but still doing stuff.
Well, and Councilmember Hunt, for those that don't know, she puts in a lot of time. We all do, but she especially puts in a lot of time and a lot of research. So we appreciate all of the efforts of everyone on the council, because we couldn't do it alone, for sure. Thank you. I already reported and talked a lot, so I'll turn the time over to Jason then.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, let's see, Anne Marie, do you have the slide there by chance? Oh, thank you, Nick. Oh, forget who's the master controller. So the Historic Preservation Committee has been working on the idea of a museum space here at City Hall, and they've been able to get some floor plans here. So what you're looking at there is basically the right out these doors right here, the northwest corner of the building. The idea there would be that they take part of that lobby space, basically walling off these doors right here, and then kind of creating a wall. So you'd still have these other 3 doors, but this area would be kind of walled off and created, would be a separate space dedicated for the museum. The conference table and chairs there, that's just for, I think, perspective. That's not part of their plan to put in a conference table. This is really just about putting in some display cases and having a dedicated space for the museum. This is something that the committee would be fundraising for. They're not asking for anything from the city financially other than just allowing them to use the space. We talked about this with staff and the mayor and Councilmember Blackham in development meeting earlier this week, and just wanted to bring it to the attention of the council as well to make sure you had an opportunity to see it, provide any comments. They're still in the early process there. Here's some perspectives, some renderings of what they're looking at. So basically, you're looking there, kind of looking towards the west from the lobby. So you'd be giving up half of the existing lobby outside the council chambers here and creating that dedicated space. This would be open anytime the building is open. It wouldn't be locked off. So basically, you know, the public would have complete access to it, which would be, that's the intent. Mr. Danzy is here in the audience if you have any questions. But yes, just.
Rob, why don't you come up to the podium?
Yeah, I think that, Jason is kind enough to even let us entertain this idea, right? I think for a long time in Kaysville City, we've wanted a museum space. When you look around us throughout all the other cities and throughout the county, we were the first city incorporated into Davis County, and we do not have a museum space. When you think about Kaysville in general, the original Kaysville City lines stretched from Hates Creek all the way to the Weber River up to South Weber. So Kaysville has a lot of history. We've just done a really poor job of preserving it. There is a lot of people that have worked hard to preserve it, and there's actually a lot of items that are currently being held at the Heritage Museum in Layton that are set aside to come to Kaysville when we have a museum space. So the goal here is to say, hey, like Jason said, this would be a space that would open up when City Hall opens up. So the beauty of it is it's not going to cost any more dollars to run, to fund, to, we're not renting a space that then we have to pay for HVAC or whatever else is out there. It's already here. It's a wasted space out there for seating. Let's come in here and use it for a solid purpose and try and do a better job of preserving our history. I think one of my concerns is the generation that knows the history is passing away quickly. And if we don't do a better job of preserving it, it'll be lost. So we were fortunate enough to have a architect who was born and raised in Kaysville that was kind enough to draw up these plans for us for free, just to give you guys an idea as to what we're thinking here. So the goal is to fundraise if we can get the go-ahead, and I don't think it would cost an exorbitant amount of money to make it happen. It's filling in a door and putting up a wall. So
Thanks, Rob. And since this isn't part of our actual agenda, we'll bring it back as a work item. So thank you. Thank you, Rob. Thank you.
I'll donate the first $100.
Okay.
I have $100. Anybody else?
Let me. Yeah, you can. You can go ahead and talk about it in your council member report, I guess.
Oh, sorry.
Go
I was
ahead.
just wondering if I could ask like 2 questions about it.
I think so, yeah.
Just curious, do we have an accounting of all the artifacts and the art that will go in, and if we compared that to the size needed for the space? So that's one question.
Good question, and yeah.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Jason asked the same question, right? So we do have a long list of items that could potentially go inside the museum. The reality is there's more items that could go into the museum than that space currently provides. But the idea is that we currently have nothing, so something is better than nothing. And with museum space, right, as Perry's saying, you want to rotate the items. So the long-term goal is, hey, let's get a museum space. Let's see if there's any value to that, right? And if we can create the value, yeah, we'd love to grow into a larger space, but let's just be, appreciative of what we've been given. But the reality too is, hey, if you go to Layton City Hall right now, they have a giant warehouse underneath their city hall that stores all of the historic relics under there. And we, in the city, as well as the separate nonprofit historic preserve or Museum of History and Art, they are renting out about 4 storage units currently to house some of these items that were set apart, right? So there's a lot of items that need to go in there. That's not enough space for all of them. So yes, that'll store some of them, that'll showcase some of them, but the long-term goal is we also need to do a good job of finding a space to store them long-term as well. So,
okay.
Yeah.
I guess my follow-up question to that is the wall and door necessary, or could this be more of an open concept since we have so much space in the front lobby that's not used?
Well, that's a good idea. So in terms of, right, I think and Jason and Cole and others have brought this up is, yeah, let's take some of these items that could go in there as well and maybe display them throughout City Hall. If you remember the old City Hall, there was great pictures, great relics on the City Hall. That's one of my first recollections of falling in love with Kaysville City history, was walking into City Hall, seeing the old hand-drawn map on the wall. It's like, wow, Kaysville City used to have a racetrack in it? Like, how cool is that, right? Like, those types of things. So yes, they can be going throughout the city, but from a long-term fundraising perspective, I can't go out and ask John to give me $100 to hang pictures on the wall in the City Hall. But what I can do is say, hey, Frank over here, we're going to have a museum space inside of City Hall that's going to be set aside as a museum. Will you give me $1,000? So in order to fundraise, I need a physical space that says Kaysville City Museum on it so that I can get people to pay for it.
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate you. We'll bring you back when we have a work item discussion about this. Go ahead, Jason.
Absolutely, yeah. When we have a little more detail, we'll definitely be bringing this back for discussion as a work item. Also wanted to bring you up to speed on the Davis Tech College had their meeting last night. Was that last night? Mm-hmm. Boy, that seems like forever ago. Anyway, they were able to tell the residents there around the school that they have officially terminated the sandbox idea, the heavy equipment program. So that made a lot of people happy, I think. They are still looking for solutions on the CDL program, the range, looking hard at alternative sites around the county. So a lot of it's just kind of wait and see. But I think they've heard the residents loud and clear and are really making a strong effort to find another location for that. So just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. Also, just a thank you to Melinda and the mayor. They met with the county commission on Tuesday morning, and that was kind of the commission's opportunity to comment on our proposal for the community reinvestment program or area in the city. That's what would generate, we're projecting over $5 million in incremental financing for the city to do some improvements in the downtown area. So they made some positive comments, and we're hoping that in the coming weeks that'll go back for an action item and they'll be able to approve that. But it's some good news there. So also, we're picking up some momentum on the food hall next door. City's got an agreement with an attorney to help us through this very complex agreement. It's just kind of its own unique animal that really no other city that we've found has really done something quite like this. So this attorney is a retired attorney from West Valley, West Valley's done just a number of project areas, so she's very familiar with this and can dedicate some time to it. And we got a great bargain with her, so that's picking up some momentum. We're hoping that we'll be able to work through the details of that agreement and bring that back to the council very soon for consideration. And then also wanted to remind everybody that the fun's not over tonight. We'll be back here at 8 a.m. for a work session on the capital planning. So we'll have bagels and juice, but that's all we can promise. And that's all, Mayor.
Breakfast burrito?
Bagels and juice.
We don't want to make it too exciting, you know. So.
We don't want to get too comfortable. Anyway,
Right.
we want to, stay sharp. Okay, thank you so much, Jason. All right, Councilmember Oaks, did you have any? I didn't want to.
No.
Okay, good. We're good on Councilmember reports. Okay, would someone like to make a motion to move into a closed session? At which time we'll invite our audience we'll excuse our audience. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we move this into a closed session.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, audience, residents, neighbors, friends. We appreciate you.